The candlelight flickered against Emma Fairweather's face as she traced her finger down the worn page of Jane Eyre, the only sound in the small library the soft crackle of the wick and the occasional rustle of paper, when suddenly the door creaked open and a tall silhouette filled the frame, hat in hand, bringing with him the smell of leather and desert sage. Emma looked up sharply, her green eyes adjusting to see beyond the circle of light her candle provided. The library in Abiquiu, New Mexico, was never busy this late in the evening, and she had thought herself completely alone. The man standing in the doorway was covered in trail dust, his dark hair slightly too long beneath where his hat had been, and his face bore the weathered look of someone who spent more time under the sun than under a roof. "Apologies, miss," he said, his voice rough but somehow gentle. "I saw the light and thought maybe the place was still open for borrowing." Emma set down her book carefully, marking her place with a ribbon. "We closed 2 hours ago. I just stayed to finish this chapter." She gestured to the novel before her. "I am the librarian here, so I suppose I can make exceptions for myself." The man took a tentative step inside, and Emma could see him better now. He was probably in his mid-20s, with dark eyes that held a certain loneliness she recognized all too well. His clothes were well worn but clean, and he carried himself with a careful politeness that suggested he was not accustomed to being in places filled with books and quiet refinement. "I did not mean to disturb you," he said. "I will come back tomorrow." Something about the way he looked at the shelves of books with a kind of hunger that had nothing to do with food made Emma hesitate. "What were you looking for?" she asked. He shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. "I cannot rightly say. I just wanted something to read. Been on the trail for near 3 weeks, and the silence gets loud if you understand my meaning." Emma understood perfectly. She had moved to Abiquiu 6 months ago in 1885, taking the position as librarian to escape her own too loud silence back in Philadelphia. Her parents had both passed within a year of each other, and the house she had grown up in had felt like a mausoleum. The West had called to her through advertisements and stories, promising reinvention and purpose. "I understand exactly what you mean," she said softly. "Come in. I will help you find something." The man's face brightened with genuine surprise. "That is very kind of you, miss. Fairweather, Emma Fairweather." "Owen Nakamura," he said, extending his hand. When Emma looked momentarily surprised, he added, "My father was Japanese, came over to work the railways. My mother was from Texas. I got her last name, but I go by my father's given name tradition." Emma shook his hand, noting the calluses and the strength in his grip, but also the care he took not to squeeze too hard. "It is nice to meet you, Mr. Nakamura. What kind of stories do you like?" Owen glanced around the small library, taking in the neat rows of books, the careful organization, the small touches Emma had added to make the space welcoming. "I am not much of a reader, to be honest, never had much schooling. But my father used to tell me stories when I was young, before he passed. Tales about samurai and honor and loyalty. I have been feeling homesick for those stories lately, even though I never knew that world." Emma felt her heart constrict with sympathy. She walked along the shelves, her finger trailing over spines until she found what she was looking for. "I do not have stories about samurai, but I have this." She pulled out a copy of Ivanhoe. "It is about knights and honor, different culture but perhaps some of the same spirit." Owen took the book carefully as if it were made of glass. "I am a slow reader," he admitted. "Might take me a while to get through this." "That is perfectly fine. A good book should not be rushed." Emma smiled at him, and she noticed the way his expression softened in response. "Where are you staying in town?" "The boarding house on 2nd Street. I am working at the Morrison Ranch for the season, helping with their horse breaking. They have some Mustangs that need training, and I have a way with horses. How long will you be in Abiquiu? At least through the fall, maybe longer if the work continues. Owen held the book against his chest. Can I really borrow this tonight? Yes, but you will need to sign for it. Emma moved back to her small desk and pulled out the lending ledger. Owen followed her, and she noticed how carefully he moved, as if afraid of knocking something over or making too much noise. He signed his name in careful, slightly uneven letters that spoke of someone who had learned to write later in life or without much practice. Emma did not comment on it, simply blotted the ink and closed the book. Return it within 2 weeks, or come tell me if you need more time, she said. I will. Owen hesitated at the door. Thank you, Miss Fairweather. This is the kindest thing anyone has done for me in a good long while. After he left, Emma sat back down with Jane Eyre, but found she could not concentrate on the familiar words. Instead, she kept thinking about the loneliness in Owen Nakamura's eyes and the way he had held that book as if it were treasure. The next morning, Emma opened the library at 9 o'clock sharp, as she always did. Abiquiu was a small town, nestled in the high desert of northern New Mexico, with a population of maybe 300 souls if you counted the surrounding ranches. The library was modest, funded by a wealthy widow from Santa Fe who believed education should reach even the smallest communities. Emma had only a handful of regular patrons, mostly the schoolteacher, the doctor's wife, and a few of the ranchers' children whose parents valued learning. She was surprised when Owen appeared just after noon, the copy of Ivanhoe in his hands. Is something wrong with the book? Emma asked, concerned. No, no, Owen said quickly. I just wanted to ask you about some of the words. I got through the first chapter last night, but there are parts I do not understand. Emma gestured to the small table near her desk. Sit down. Show me what is confusing you. For the next hour, they went through the opening chapters together. Owen was right that he was a slow reader, but Emma quickly realized he was far from stupid. He simply had not had the opportunity to develop his skills. When he understood a passage, his face would light up with genuine pleasure, and he asked thoughtful questions about why characters behaved certain ways. Why does Ivanhoe hide who he is? Owen asked at one point. Seems like it would be easier just to tell the truth. Sometimes people need to prove themselves on their own merits, not on their name or reputation, Emma said. And sometimes returning home is complicated, especially when you have been away so long you are not sure you still belong. Owen looked at her with sudden intensity. That sounds like personal experience talking. Emma felt herself flush. Perhaps. I came here from Philadelphia to start fresh. Everything there reminded me of what I had lost. Your family, my parents, they were all I had. Emma closed the book gently. But enough about sad things. Are you finding the story interesting? Very, Owen said. I stayed up too late reading by lamplight, and my boss commented on me being bleary-eyed this morning. He grinned, and Emma noticed how it transformed his face from weathered and serious to almost boyish. Worth it, though. You can come by whenever you need help with the reading, Emma found herself saying. I have time in the afternoons usually. I would not want to impose. It is not an imposition. Helping people discover books is why I became a librarian. That was true, but Emma also had to admit to herself that she was already looking forward to his next visit. Owen became a regular fixture in the library over the following weeks. He would come in the afternoons after his work at the Morrison Ranch, sometimes dusty and tired, but always eager to discuss what he had read. Emma found herself preparing for his visits, making sure she had answers to questions she anticipated, sometimes bringing in cookies from the bakery to share. They progressed beyond Ivanhoe into other books. Owen had a preference for adventure stories, but he also surprised Emma by enjoying poetry when she read it aloud to him. He particularly liked Whitman, saying the words reminded him of the open range. "I never thought of grass as something worth writing whole poems about," he admitted one afternoon as they sat together at the table. "But the way Whitman describes it, I can see what he means. It is like the grass is all of us, every person who ever lived, all connected." "Exactly," Emma said, delighted. "You have a natural understanding of metaphor," Owen laughed. "Fancy word for saying things are like other things. It is more than that, though. It is seeing the deeper connections between things, the way everything in the world relates to everything else." Their conversations began to drift beyond books into personal territory. Emma learned that Owen's father had died when he was 12, killed in a railway accident. His mother had raised him alone, working as a seamstress, until she remarried when Owen was 16. The stepfather had not wanted Owen around, so he had struck out on his own, working as a ranch hand and drifting from place to place. "I never stayed anywhere longer than a season until now," Owen told her. "Abiquiu is different, though. It feels like I could put down roots here." "What makes it different?" Emma asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Owen looked at her directly, his dark eyes serious. "I think you know, Emma." They had progressed to first names after the second week, and Emma loved the way her name sounded in his voice, careful and warm. "We have only known each other a month," Emma said softly. "I know. I am not trying to rush anything. I just wanted you to know that these afternoons with you, they are the best part of my days." Emma felt her heart racing. She had not expected to find romance in Abiquiu. She had come here to heal, to lose herself in books and solitude. But Owen had slipped past her defenses with his genuine curiosity, his gentle manner, and his loneliness that matched her own. "They are the best part of my days, too," she admitted. Owen reached across the table and took her hand carefully, as if afraid she might pull away. Emma did not. His hand was warm and rough, grounding her in the moment. "Can I take you to dinner?" he asked. "Properly, I mean, not just talking about books in the library." "Yes," Emma said. "I would like that very much." Their first official dinner together was at the only restaurant in Abiquiu, a small establishment run by a Mexican family that served excellent pozole and fresh tortillas. Emma wore her best dress, a deep blue that brought out her eyes, and Owen had clearly made an effort to clean up, his hair neatly combed and his clothes fresh. Over dinner, they talked about everything and nothing. Owen told her about the horses he was training, describing their personalities with the same attention to detail she used when discussing book characters. Emma told him about her childhood in Philadelphia, about learning to love books from her father who had been a professor, about feeling lost after her parents died. "I felt like a book with half its pages torn out," she said. "Like my story did not make sense anymore without them in it." Owen was quiet for a moment before responding. "Maybe that is when a new story starts, not to replace the old one but to continue it in a different way." "Is that what you think you are doing here?" Emma asked. "Starting a new story? I hope so." "For a long time I felt like I was just existing, not really living. Just moving from place to place, never connecting with anyone or anything. It gets tiring, being alone all the time." "Then why did you keep moving?" Owen considered the question carefully. "Fear, I suppose. Fear that if I stayed somewhere and let myself care about people, I would lose them. Like I lost my father. Like I lost my mother when she chose her new husband over me. It felt safer to just keep moving, never get attached." "What changed?" Emma asked, though her heart was already supplying the answer. "You," Owen said simply. That night I walked into the library and saw you reading by candlelight. You looked like you were exactly where you belonged, like you had found your place in the world. I wanted that. And then when you were kind to me, helped me with reading without making me feel stupid, I started to think maybe I could belong somewhere too. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. I did not feel like I belonged. I felt like I was hiding from the world. Maybe we were both hiding, Owen said. And maybe we found each other anyway. They walked back through the quiet streets of Abiquiu together, the desert night cool and filled with stars. Owen walked Emma to the small house behind the library where she lived, a modest two-room structure that suited her needs. At her door, Owen hesitated. "Can I see you again, not just in the library, I mean?" "Yes," Emma said. "I would like that very much. Tomorrow is Sunday. Would you want to take a ride out to see the canyon? I could borrow a wagon from the Morrisons." "That sounds wonderful." Owen smiled, and then with great care he leaned down and kissed her cheek. It was brief and chaste, but Emma felt the warmth of it long after he had said good night and walked away. The canyon Owen took her to was about 5 miles from town, a dramatic slash in the red earth where a river had carved its way through the landscape over countless years. They sat on a blanket Owen had brought, eating the picnic lunch Emma had prepared, and watched hawks circle in the brilliant blue sky. "I never get tired of this view," Owen said. "Every time I see it, I notice something different. The way the light changes the colors of the rocks, or how the shadows move across the canyon walls." "You have the soul of a poet," Emma teased gently. "I am just a cowboy who is learning to pay attention," Owen replied. "You taught me that, to look closer at things, to see the details." They spent the afternoon exploring the canyon rim, with Owen pointing out desert plants and telling her their uses. He knew which ones could be eaten, which ones made medicine, which ones to avoid entirely. Emma was impressed by his knowledge, by the way he moved through this landscape as if he were part of it. "The land teaches you if you pay attention," Owen explained. "You have to respect it out here. It is beautiful, but it will kill you if you are careless." As the sun began to lower toward the horizon, painting the canyon in shades of orange and gold, Owen took Emma's hand. "I need to tell you something," he said. "I know we have not been courting long, but I am not a man who plays games or hides what he feels. I am falling in love with you, Emma. Maybe I have been since that first night in the library." Emma's breath caught. She had been feeling the same way, but hearing him say it made it real in a way that was both terrifying and exhilarating. "I am falling in love with you too," she whispered. Owen cupped her face in his hands and kissed her properly this time, and Emma felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. His lips were warm and gentle but certain, and when they finally pulled apart, Emma felt like the world had shifted into sharper focus. "I want to build a life with you," Owen said. "I know it is fast, but I am 26 years old and I have spent too many years drifting. I do not want to waste any more time. I want to stay in Abiquiu, build us a proper home, fill it with books and horses and whatever else would make you happy." "I want that too," Emma said. "I am 23, and I thought I had already had my chance at happiness and lost it when my parents died. But you make me think that maybe life has more than one story to tell." "Let me be your favorite story," Owen said softly. "I know I am not educated or refined like those men in the books you love, but I will spend every day trying to make you happy." Emma kissed him again, pouring all her feelings into it. When they finally pulled apart, she was smiling. "You do not need to be like anyone in books. I love you exactly as you are." They stayed at the canyon until the stars began to appear, talking about their future. Owen wanted to save money from his work at the Morrison Ranch until he could buy land of his own. He had dreams of breeding horses, building a reputation for quality training. Emma wanted to expand the library, maybe even start a small school to teach adults to read. "We could do it together," Owen said. "You teach reading, I teach horsemanship. We could help people learn skills that would improve their lives." "That sounds perfect," Emma said. As they drove back to Abiquiu in the wagon, Emma leaned against Owen's shoulder, feeling more content than she had in years. The night was vast and quiet around them, but it was no longer the lonely silence she had fled Philadelphia to escape. It was a peaceful quiet, full of possibility. Over the following months, Owen and Emma's courtship became well known in Abiquiu. The small town watched with approval as the lonely librarian and the drifter Cowboy built a life together. Owen continued his work at the Morrison Ranch while saving every penny he could. Emma continued running the library, but now her work had new purpose because she was building toward a shared future. Owen proved to be a devoted suitor. He brought Emma wildflowers from the desert, learned her favorite foods so he could surprise her with them, and spent every free moment by her side. He continued his reading lessons, progressing to the point where he could make his way through most books on his own, though he still preferred when Emma read aloud to him in the evenings. Emma, for her part, had never felt so cherished. Owen had a way of making her feel valued not despite her bookish nature but because of it. He genuinely wanted to learn from her, to understand the things she loved, to share in her passions. And he introduced her to his own world in return, teaching her to ride horses properly, to read the weather in the desert, to appreciate the harsh beauty of the high country. One evening in October, as they sat together on the porch of Emma's small house watching the sunset, Owen said, "I talked to Mr. Morrison today. He has agreed to sell me 20 acres of his land at a good price. It is not much, but it has water rights and good grazing. Enough to start our horse ranch." Emma turned to him, eyes wide. "Owen, that is wonderful. There is just one thing," Owen said, and then he was getting down on one knee, pulling a simple gold band from his pocket. "I need someone to build that ranch with me. Someone to share every sunrise and sunset. Someone to read to me in the evenings and teach me new words and make me laugh when I get too serious. Emma Fairweather, will you marry me?" "Yes," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." Owen slipped the ring on her finger and then swept her into his arms, spinning her around while she laughed and cried at the same time. When he set her down, they kissed until the stars came out overhead. They were married in December of 1885, in a small ceremony at the Catholic Church in Abiquiu. Emma wore a cream-colored dress she had sewn herself, with lace at the collar and cuffs. Owen wore a new suit he had bought in Santa Fe, looking both uncomfortable and impossibly handsome. The ceremony was attended by most of the town, as well as the Morrison family and several of Owen's fellow ranch hands. The priest who married them was a kind man named Father Domingo who had known Emma since she arrived in Abiquiu. "You have both found something precious," he told them during the ceremony. "In this hard land, love is the water that makes everything grow. Cherish it, tend it, and it will sustain you through all trials." After the ceremony, there was a celebration at the town hall with music and dancing and food contributed by nearly everyone in attendance. Emma had never felt so surrounded by community, so embraced by belonging. Owen danced with her until she was breathless, and then they danced some more. "I never knew life could feel like this," Owen whispered to her as they swayed together. "So full and bright." "We made our own story," Emma whispered back. "Better than any book." They spent their wedding night in Emma's small house, which would be their home until they could build on Owen's new land. Owen was gentle and patient, and Emma felt safe in his arms, cherished and desired in equal measure. Afterward, they lay tangled together, talking softly about their dreams. "I want to give you everything," Owen said. "A big house full of books, a comfortable life, children if you want them." "I just want you," Emma said. "Everything else is extra." "You will have me forever," Owen promised. "That is the one thing I can guarantee." The winter months were spent planning. Owen worked with Mr. Morrison and some of the other ranch hands to start building a house on his new land. It would be modest at first, just 4 rooms, but with the potential to expand. Emma continued running the library, but she also began packing her personal belongings, preparing for the move. In February, Owen came home one evening with news. "Mr. Morrison asked me to be his foreman," he said, barely containing his excitement. "It means more pay and more responsibility. He trusts me to oversee the whole operation." "Owen, that is incredible," Emma said, throwing her arms around him. "You have worked so hard for this. It means we can build the house faster, maybe even hire some help. And it means people see me as more than just a drifter. I have a reputation now, a good one." Emma pulled back to look at him. "You were never just a drifter to me, you were always someone special." "I know," Owen said softly. "You saw me when I could barely see myself." "That night I walked into the library, I was so lonely I did not even recognize it anymore. It had just become normal. But you changed everything." They moved into their new house in April of 1886. It was not fancy, but it was sturdy and well built, with large windows that let in plenty of light. Owen had built Emma a special room for her books, with shelves already installed on every wall. There was a bedroom, a kitchen with a modern stove, and a living area with a fireplace. Outside, Owen had constructed a barn and several corrals for the horses he planned to train. Emma arranged her books lovingly on the shelves while Owen brought in their furniture. Most of it was simple, handmade by local craftsmen, but Emma thought it was perfect. This was their home, built with their own hands and dreams. "What do you think?" Owen asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "I think it is perfect," Emma said. "I think we are home." That night, they christened their new house properly, making love in their own bedroom in their own home for the first time. Afterward, as they lay together listening to the night sounds of the desert, Emma felt a profound sense of peace. She had found her place in the world, and more importantly, she had found her person. Owen began building his horse training business slowly but surely. He had a gift for working with difficult animals, for seeing what they needed and providing it patiently. Word spread throughout northern New Mexico about the half-Japanese cowboy who could gentle any horse without breaking its spirit. Ranchers began bringing their problem horses to Owen, and he worked with each one carefully, earning their trust before asking for their cooperation. Emma reopened the library in town, making the commute 3 days a week, while spending the other days managing their household and helping Owen with the business side of things. She kept his books, wrote correspondence, and even helped with the horses when she could. One evening in June, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset, Emma said, "I have some news." Owen looked at her, immediately attentive. "What is it?" "I am pregnant," Emma said. "I went to see Dr. Martinez yesterday and he confirmed it. We are going to have a baby in February." Owen's face went through a series of emotions so quickly Emma almost laughed. Shock, joy, fear, and then a fierce protectiveness settled over his features. "A baby," he whispered. "We are going to be parents." "Are you happy?" Emma asked, suddenly nervous. "Happy," Owen pulled her into his arms. "Emma, I am terrified and thrilled and so full of love I think I might burst. A baby, our baby." Over the following months, Owen became almost comically protective. He did not want Emma lifting anything heavy, riding horses, or working too hard. Emma found it endearing even when it was slightly annoying. "I am pregnant, not made of glass," she reminded him regularly. "I know, but I cannot help worrying. You are the most precious thing in the world to me, you and our baby." Emma's pregnancy progressed smoothly. She continued working at the library through October, then decided to stay home to prepare for the baby's arrival. Owen converted one corner of their bedroom into a nursery area, building a beautiful cradle from pine wood and sanding it until it was smooth as silk. The women of Abiquiu rallied around Emma, bringing her baby clothes and blankets, sharing advice and stories. Mrs. Morrison, the ranch owner's wife, became a particular friend, having raised 4 children of her own. "You are going to be a wonderful mother, Mrs. Morrison told Emma one afternoon over tea. "And Owen will be a devoted father. That man thinks the sun rises and sets with you." "I am very lucky," Emma agreed. "You both are," Mrs. Morrison said. "You found each other when you both needed someone most. That is not luck, that is grace." Their son was born on a cold February night in 1887, after 18 hours of labor. Dr. Martinez attended the birth, along with Mrs. Morrison and the local midwife. Owen paced outside their bedroom for most of it, until Emma finally demanded he come in and hold her hand. When the baby finally arrived, squalling and healthy, Owen wept openly. "He is perfect," he kept saying. "Emma, he is absolutely perfect." They named him Oliver after Owen's father, with the middle name Frederick after Emma's father. Oliver had his mother's green eyes and his father's dark hair, and from the beginning he was alert and curious about the world around him. Owen proved to be exactly the devoted father Emma had expected. He would walk Oliver around their property for hours, talking to him about the horses and the land and anything else that came to mind. He sang to him in Japanese, songs his own father had sung to him. He was gentle and patient, changing diapers and getting up for middle-of-the-night feedings without complaint. "I never knew I could love anything as much as I love you," Owen told Emma one night as they watched Oliver sleep. "But somehow my heart got bigger, and now it holds both of you." Emma leaned against him, exhausted but content. "We made him together. We made this whole life together." As Oliver grew from infant to baby to toddler, the horse ranch continued to thrive. Owen's reputation brought customers from as far away as Colorado and Texas. He hired 2 ranch hands to help with the daily work, allowing him more time with his family. Emma eventually reopened the library part-time, bringing Oliver with her. The townspeople loved seeing the baby, and Oliver seemed to enjoy being surrounded by books. By the time he was 2 years old, he was already showing signs of inheriting his mother's love of stories. In the spring of 1889, Emma discovered she was pregnant again. This time the news came with less shock and more quiet joy. They knew what to expect now, felt confident in their ability to expand their family. Their daughter was born in December of 1889, just before Christmas. They named her Eleanor Marie, and she had her father's dark eyes and her mother's delicate features. Oliver, now almost 3, was fascinated by his baby sister, wanting to help with everything. "Gentle," Owen would remind him constantly. "She is very small and fragile." Oliver would nod seriously and then very carefully pat Eleanor's head with one chubby hand. Life settled into a rhythm that felt right. Owen continued training horses while Emma managed the library and their growing household. Oliver started learning to read before he was 4, sitting on Emma's lap while she pointed to words. Eleanor proved to be a quiet, observant baby who rarely cried but watched everything with intense focus. In the evenings, after the children were asleep, Owen and Emma would sit together on their porch and talk about everything and nothing. Sometimes Emma would read aloud while Owen worked on tack repairs or other small tasks. Sometimes they would just sit in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the stars. "You remember that night I walked into the library?" Owen asked one evening in the summer of 1890. "Of course," Emma said. "You looked so uncomfortable, like you were not sure you belonged in a place full of books." "I was not sure I belonged anywhere," Owen admitted. "I had been drifting for so long I had forgotten what it felt like to have a home. And then there you were, reading by candlelight, and something in me just knew." "Knew what?" "That my drifting days were over, that I had found where I was supposed to be." Owen squeezed her hand. "You saved me, Emma. You gave me a reason to stop running, to build something that would last." "You saved me too," Emma said. "I came to Abiquiu to hide from my grief, but you showed me how to live again, how to be happy again." They sat quietly for a while, listening to the night sounds of the desert. Finally, Owen said, "I have been thinking about something." "What is that?" "I want to expand our program, not just training horses, but teaching people, especially young people who might not have other opportunities. Teach them horsemanship, give them skills that could help them make a living." Emma turned to look at him. "Like an apprenticeship program?" "Exactly. And maybe you could teach reading and writing too. Make it a full education." "We could call it a ranch school," Emma said, getting excited. "Combine practical skills with academic learning. There are so many young people out here who need both." They spent the rest of the evening planning, dreaming bigger than they had allowed themselves before. By the time they went to bed, they had sketched out a whole vision for expanding their ranch into something that could truly serve their community. Over the next 2 years, they worked to make that vision reality. Owen built additional structures on their property, creating space for students to work and learn. Emma developed curriculum, combining basic academics with practical skills. They started small, with just 3 students the first year, young men from surrounding ranches who wanted to learn Owen's horse training methods. The program grew steadily. By 1893, they had a dozen students ranging in age from 14 to 20, both male and female. Emma taught reading, writing, and arithmetic in the mornings. Owen taught horsemanship, animal husbandry, and ranch management in the afternoons. Together, they created an environment where young people could develop skills that would help them build good lives. Oliver started helping with the younger students when he was 7, showing them how to approach horses gently, how to read their body language. Eleanor, at 3, was everyone's favorite, toddling around the property and bringing sunshine wherever she went. In the fall of 1893, Emma discovered she was pregnant for the 3rd time. This pregnancy felt different, harder on her body now that she was 31. Owen insisted she rest more, taking over more of the household duties and the teaching responsibilities. Their second son was born in April of 1894, and they named him Oscar William. He was bigger than Oliver had been, with a lusty cry that announced his presence to the world. Oliver and Eleanor were both fascinated by their new brother, wanting to be involved in every aspect of his care. "We have a full house now," Owen said one evening as he rocked Oscar while Emma supervised Oliver and Eleanor's bedtime routine. "Is it too much?" Emma asked. "No," Owen said firmly. "It is exactly right. This is what I always dreamed of when I let myself dream. A family, a home, a purpose." "You gave me all of that." Emma kissed him softly. "We gave it to each other." The years passed in a happy blur of children and students and horses. The ranch school became well known throughout northern New Mexico, with a waiting list of young people wanting to attend. Owen and Emma eventually had to hire additional teachers to keep up with demand. In 1897, when Emma was 35 and Owen was 38, they celebrated their 12th wedding anniversary with a party attended by what felt like half of Abiquiu. Their children were growing up strong and happy. Oliver was 10 and showing signs of inheriting his father's gift with horses. Eleanor was 7 and had her mother's love of books, already reading at a level beyond her years. Oscar was 3 and into everything, fearless and curious. "Look at what we built," Emma said to Owen as they watched their friends and neighbors celebrate around them. "Look at what our love created." "A whole world," Owen said. "Our own story better than anything in those books." Emma laughed. "I do not know about that. We have had a pretty remarkable story ourselves." "We have," Owen agreed. "And it is not over yet. We have years and years of chapters still to write." In 1899, when Oliver was 12, he asked his parents about their first meeting. They were sitting together after dinner, the family gathered in the living room as had become their custom. "Tell us again about how you met," Oliver said. "About the library and the candlelight." Emma and Owen exchanged glances, smiling. "I was reading Jane Eyre," Emma began. "It was late, well past closing time, but I had stayed to finish my chapter. The library was quiet except for the sound of my candle flickering. And I had been on the trail for weeks," Owen continued. "I was lonely and tired, and I saw the light in the library window. I went in hoping to borrow a book, not really expecting anyone would help me. But I did help him," Emma said, "and he looked at that book like it was the most precious thing he had ever been given." "Because it was," Owen said. "Not just the book, but the kindness behind it. Your mother saw me, really saw me, when I was not sure I existed anymore. And your father reminded me that life is meant to be lived, not just read about in books," Emma added. "He was so brave walking into that library and asking for what he needed. That takes courage." "What did you say to her?" Eleanor asked. "When you knew you loved her?" Owen thought about it. "I said, let me be your favorite story. I wanted to be something she would return to again and again, something that brought her joy and comfort and adventure." "And did you become that?" Oscar asked, even though he was young enough that he did not fully understand what his parents were talking about. "Every day," Emma said softly, looking at Owen with all the love of their years together. "Every single day." The children seemed satisfied with this answer, and the conversation moved on to other topics. But later, after the children were in bed, Emma and Owen sat together on their porch as they had done countless times before. "You ever think about that night?" Emma asked. "About how different our lives would be if you had not walked into that library?" "All the time," Owen admitted. "I think about how close I came to just keeping on drifting, never stopping anywhere long enough to connect with anyone. I think about how lonely I was, how empty my life felt." "I was lonely too," Emma said. "I had surrounded myself with books because they felt safer than people, but you showed me that the best stories are the ones we live, not just the ones we read." "We lived a good one," Owen said, "and we are still living it." As they sat there together under the stars, Emma thought about all the chapters of their life together. The early days of courtship and discovery, the wedding and the establishment of their home, the births of their children and the growth of their business. The challenges they had faced and overcome together, the quiet moments and the dramatic ones, all woven together into a life that felt complete. "I love you," she said to Owen. "Just as much now as I did that day at the canyon when you first told me you were falling in love with me. Maybe more, because now I know all of you, all the ways you are kind and strong and good." "I love you too," Owen said. "You are still my favorite story, Emma. The one I never get tired of, the one that always surprises me with something new." They sat together as the night deepened around them. Two people who had found each other in a small library in a small town in the vast desert, and had built a love that would last forever. In 1902, when Emma was 40 and Owen was 43, they celebrated their 17th wedding anniversary. Oliver was 15 and already helping run the horse training business with real skill. Elena was 12 and had announced her intention to become a teacher like her mother. Oscar was 8 and showed signs of becoming a writer, always scribbling stories in notebooks. The ranch school continued to thrive, now with a permanent staff of 4 teachers besides Emma and Owen. They had trained hundreds of young people over the years, many of whom had gone on to successful careers throughout the West. One evening, Emma was in her library room, surrounded by books as she prepared lessons for the next week. Owen came in and sat down beside her, just as he had done so many times in the original library in town. "What are you reading?" he asked, the same question he had asked her countless times over the years. "Actually, I am not reading," Emma said. "I am writing." "Writing what?" "Our story. I have been thinking about how we met, about everything that has happened since then. I wanted to write it down so our children and grandchildren would know." Owen picked up the pages she had already filled with her neat handwriting. He could read easily now, years of practice having made him confident with written words. He read silently for a few minutes, then looked up at her with tears in his eyes. "This is beautiful, Emma. This is exactly how I remember it." "I wanted to get it right," Emma said. "Our story deserves to be told properly. Read it to me," Owen requested. "Like you used to read to me when I was just learning." So Emma read their story aloud, describing the night a lonely cowboy walked into a library and found a lonely woman reading by candlelight. She read about how he asked her to let him be her favorite story, and how she had given him her heart in return. She read about their courtship and marriage, about building their home and raising their children, about creating something that mattered. When she finished, they sat quietly together for a long moment. "We did good," Owen finally said. "Better than I ever dreamed possible." "We did," Emma agreed, "and we are not done yet." Over the next decade, their lives continued to unfold in satisfying ways. Oliver married a sweet young woman from Santa Fe in 1907 and took over the horse training business fully, running it with the same care and skill his father had shown. He and his wife gave Emma and Owen their first grandchild, a boy they named Owen in his grandfather's honor, in 1908. Elena went to Teachers College in Colorado and returned to Abiquiu in 1909 to teach at the town school. She married a local rancher's son in 1910 and had twin girls in 1911. Oscar went east to study writing at a university in New York, but returned home every summer, eventually publishing a book of stories set in New Mexico that received favorable reviews. Emma and Owen gradually stepped back from the daily operations of the ranch school, though they remained involved in an advisory capacity. They spent more time with their grandchildren, passing on stories and wisdom and love. In 1915, on a warm spring evening, Emma and Owen sat on their porch as they had done thousands of times before. They were both in their 50s now, with gray in their hair and lines on their faces, but when they looked at each other, they still saw the young people who had fallen in love in a library 30 years earlier. "We have been blessed," Emma said, "more than I ever thought possible." "We made our own blessings," Owen replied, "by choosing each other every single day." "Best choice I ever made," Emma said. "Same," Owen agreed. "That night I walked into the library, I was looking for a book to read. Instead, I found my whole life. And I was hiding in my books when I should have been living," Emma said. "You taught me the difference." They sat together as the sun set over the desert they both loved, surrounded by the life they had built together. 3 children, 5 grandchildren so far, a successful business, a strong marriage. They had faced challenges over the years, weathered storms both literal and figurative, but they had done it together. "You think our story will last?" Emma asked. After we are gone, I mean. Will people remember? Our story will last as long as love lasts, Owen said. As long as people believe that two lonely souls can find each other and build something beautiful together. That is the kind of story that never gets old. Emma leaned against him, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart. They had been reading each other for 30 years now, learning each other's chapters, understanding each other's themes. They had become the kind of story that deserved a happy ending. And they had found it together. Years continued to pass in their predictable, precious way. Emma and Owen grew older but not apart. They took walks together every evening, held hands like young lovers, still talked for hours about everything and nothing. Their children and grandchildren visited often, filling their home with noise and joy. In 1920, they celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary with a party that included 3 generations of family. Oliver's son, young Owen, was 12 now and already showing his grandfather's gift with horses. Eleanor's twin girls were 9 and as different as night and day, one quiet and bookish like Emma, one adventurous and bold. Oscar had married a fellow writer and had a daughter of his own, a precocious 5-year-old who already declared she would be a cowgirl when she grew up. "Look at what we made," Emma said to Owen as they watched their family celebrate around them. "Look at how our love multiplied." "Mathematics you can see and touch," Owen said. "The best kind." That night, after everyone had gone home or to bed, Emma and Owen sat together in their library room. The walls were still lined with books, though many more had been added over the years. Emma picked up the manuscript she had started writing nearly 20 years earlier, the story of their lives together. "I finished it," she told Owen. "Our story, I wrote all the way up to now." "How does it end?" Owen asked. "It does not," Emma said. "Not really, because we are still living it." "Read me the last page," Owen requested. So Emma read aloud about 2 people who found each other when they both needed someone most, who built a life together based on love and respect and genuine friendship. She read about challenges overcome and joys shared, about children raised and grandchildren cherished. She read about a love that deepened and strengthened with every passing year. When she finished, Owen was crying openly. "That is us," he said. "That is really us. We did all of that." "We did," Emma confirmed. "And I would do it all again exactly the same way." "Me too," Owen said. "Every single moment." They held each other as the night deepened around them, 2 people who had found their forever in a small library in a small town in the vast desert. 2 people who had taken their loneliness and transformed it into love. 2 people who had promised to be each other's favorite story and had kept that promise for 35 years and counting. In the years that followed, Emma and Owen settled into the comfortable rhythm of their later years together. They were grandparents now primarily, leaving the running of the ranch to Oliver and the school to the younger teachers they had trained. Their days were filled with quiet pleasures and the occasional visit from family. Emma still read voraciously, though her eyesight was not what it used to be. Owen still worked with horses when his arthritis allowed, teaching his grandsons the skills he had perfected over a lifetime. They still sat together every evening on their porch, holding hands and watching the sun set over the land they loved. In 1925, on their 40th wedding anniversary, their entire family gathered for a massive celebration. There were now 8 grandchildren, ranging in age from 17 to 5, and Emma was pregnant with their first great-grandchild due in the fall. The party lasted all day, with food and music and dancing and storytelling. Oliver gave a toast that brought tears to everyone's eyes. "My parents taught me what real love looks like," he said. "Not the easy kind you read about in stories, but the real kind that shows up every day. The kind that works through problems, that forgives mistakes, that grows stronger with time. They taught me that love is not just a feeling but a choice you make over and over again. And they have been making that choice for 40 years now, choosing each other every single day. We are all here because of their love. This entire family, this ranch, this community. It all started because a lonely cowboy walked into a library and asked a lonely woman for help, and she said yes. We are the living proof that love can change everything. Emma was crying by the time Oliver finished, and Owen was not much better off. They stood together surrounded by everyone they loved, everyone they had created or influenced, everyone whose life was better because they had found each other. "Thank you," Emma whispered to Owen, "for walking into that library, for asking for help, for being brave enough to stay." "Thank you for seeing me," Owen whispered back, "for helping me when you did not have to, for building this life with me." They danced together that evening, moving slowly to music played by their grandchildren. Emma's head rested on Owen's shoulder, and she could hear his heartbeat steady and strong. She thought about all the years they had shared, all the moments both big and small that had brought them to this point. "I love you," she said, "more than words can say. More than any book ever written could capture." "I love you too," Owen replied. "You are still my favorite story, Emma, always have been, always will be." As the party continued around them, Emma thought about the young woman she had been, reading by candlelight in that library, so lost in grief she could barely see beyond her own pain. She thought about the young man Owen had been, drifting and lonely and desperate for connection. She thought about how unlikely their meeting had been, how easily they could have missed each other entirely. But they had not missed each other. They had found each other at exactly the right moment, and they had been brave enough to take a chance on love. They had built something real and lasting, something that would continue long after they were gone. That night, after everyone had left or gone to bed, Emma and Owen returned to their usual spot on the porch. The night was clear and cool, filled with stars. 40 years, Emma said. "Where did the time go?" "Into every moment we lived," Owen said. "Into every morning we woke up together and every night we went to sleep in each other's arms. Into every meal we shared and every conversation we had. Into raising our children and loving our grandchildren. The time went into living, Emma, into building this life together." "It was a good life," Emma said. "The best," Owen agreed. "And we are not done yet. We have more years to spend together, more memories to make." "How many more years do you think we have?" Emma asked. "As many as we are given," Owen said. "And I will cherish every single one because they are with you." They sat together in comfortable silence, hands linked, hearts beating in sync. The desert night surrounded them with its vastness and its beauty, but they were not lonely. They had each other, and that was all they needed. The years passed gently after that. Emma and Owen grew older but remained devoted to each other. Their health was generally good, with the usual aches and pains of aging but nothing serious. They continued their evening routine of sitting together on the porch, continued their tradition of reading together, continued to find joy in each other's company. In 1928, at ages 66 and 69 respectively, they welcomed their 12th grandchild into the world. The ranch was now run entirely by Oliver and his family. Though Emma and Owen still lived in the original house they had built together over 40 years earlier. The ranch school had evolved into a legitimate institution, now accredited and respected throughout the region. Emma published the story of her and Owen's life together in 1929, not as a book for sale but as a private family history. She had copies made for each of their children and grandchildren, wanting to preserve their story for future generations. The title she chose was simple and perfect: The Library and the Lonely Cowboy. Owen read it cover to cover in one sitting, crying at various points, laughing at others. When he finished, he pulled Emma into his arms and held her tight. "You captured it perfectly," he said. "Every moment, every feeling. This is exactly how I remember it." "It is our truth," Emma said. "Our real story, the one we lived together." "The best story I have ever heard," Owen said. "And I got to live it instead of just reading about it." In 1930, they celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary quietly, with just their immediate family. Emma was 68 now, Owen 71. They were slowing down physically but remained sharp mentally, still engaged with the world around them. That evening, as they sat on their porch, Owen said, "Do you have any regrets? Anything you wish we had done differently?" Emma thought about it carefully. "No," she finally said. "I have lived exactly the life I wanted to live. I found love when I thought I had lost my chance at it. I had children and grandchildren. I built a career doing something I loved. And I got to spend every day with my best friend. What more could anyone ask for?" "Nothing," Owen agreed. "We were blessed, Emma, more than most people ever are. We made our own blessings," Emma reminded him. "By choosing love over fear, by choosing each other over loneliness, by building something that mattered." "We did," Owen said. "And I am grateful for every moment of it." They sat together as the sun set one more time, painting the desert sky in shades of orange and gold and purple. The world around them was changing, modernizing in ways they could never have imagined when they first met. But their love remained constant, the one thing that never changed or faded. "What do you think happens next?" Emma asked. "After this life, I mean." "I do not know," Owen admitted. "But I hope that, wherever we go together. I cannot imagine any heaven that would not include you." "We will be together," Emma said with certainty. "We found each other across all the distance and loneliness of the world. Death is not going to separate us now." Owen squeezed her hand. "Promise me something, anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, you will remember this. Remember us, remember our love, remember how good we were together." "I promise," Emma said, "though I could never forget. You are written on my heart, Owen. Every word, every chapter, every moment of our story together." They remained on the porch long after the stars came out. Two people who had found each other in a library 30 years ago and had been finding each other every day since. Two people who had transformed loneliness into love, who had built a legacy that would last for generations. Their story was not a fairy tale. It was better than that. It was real. It was earned. It was chosen every single day through big gestures and small kindnesses, through challenges overcome and joys shared. It was a story about two people who had the courage to be vulnerable, to ask for what they needed, to build something beautiful together. And it was a story that would last forever, written in the hearts of their children and grandchildren, preserved in the pages Emma had carefully penned, but most importantly, lived out in the example they had set. They had shown everyone who knew them what real love looked like, what commitment meant, what partnership could be. As they finally stood to go inside for the night, Owen pulled Emma close and kissed her forehead. "Thank you," he whispered, "for letting me be your favorite story." "Thank you for being worth reading," Emma whispered back. Again and again and again. They walked into their house hand in hand, their steps slower than they had been 45 years ago, but their love unchanged. Behind them, the desert night settled over the land they had called home for so long, and in the distance, the lights of Abiquiu twinkled like stars brought down to earth. Their story had begun in a library with candlelight and books and loneliness. It had grown into something magnificent, something lasting, something real. And though someday it would end, as all stories must, what they had built together would continue. Love like theirs always did.